Jumana is joining us today from Virginia to discuss how feelings of being stuck or struggling in business often signal a deeper misalignment, and how tackling this and embracing your uniqueness to shine brightly can impact humanity on a global scale. Welcome to Awaken and Ascend. I am Jennifer Regular, your host, and here with Jumana, I am super excited for this topic because there are a couple of things that we're struggling with, right? And how do we find the integration of that? How do we harmonize these misalignments and all the things that we need to go through to kind of build our capacity to hold it all, to go through the challenges, to be able to know how to navigate that, and yet still be able to shine our light, to shine it brightly, and to really embrace our uniqueness and not get caught up in all of the pushes and pulls and expectations and becoming scattered with our energy and our focus because there's so many demands or things happening out in the world that can serve to distract us. So I'm very interested in this topic. So excited for you to be here. So welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Jennifer. I'm excited to chat more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love too, Jumana, that you are unlocking leadership from within. So I really feel that that's where it starts, from our soul, from our heart. And quite often we get stuck in our head of having to try to figure it all out, which is what happens along our soul path, right? On our journey. So I'm really curious what lit your path for you? What woke you up to the fact that leadership does begin from within? And how do we recognize those misalignments that occur? Maybe you've experienced it even in your own life to be able to talk about it now.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, it started about 11, 12 years ago. I was in corporate at the time and I got really sick. And I knew, despite going to professionals, to the medical professionals, seeking help, they told me they couldn't help me. They said, "Oh, I was normal by by standards," and I'm like, "No, something's off." And I knew deep inside, after hearing all these doors slam, that it was a lifestyle illness, and that was my first indication of this misalignment. I realized that I had been outsourcing, what was right for me to people who were deemed professionals or products that were deemed exceptional in certain areas, without quite honestly thinking about it. It was just part of the day to day, and it was what everybody was doing. And then eventually it caught up to me. And some of us are more sensitive than others, and for me it just hit a catastrophic level, to the point where my health was incredibly depleted. My vitality was no longer there, and my physical body had just changed so much. So that opened up my eyes, and that's when I really noticed the lack of integrity in business. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that consumers are not responsible. But what I'm saying is that there's this intentionality in certain industries to hide things or sugarcoat things, or in even truthfully deceive in many areas the reality of either the service or the product that is being presented. And I, at the time, when I was in corporate, I worked for big pharma, and I ended up working in big pharma for about 17 years. So I got sick in 2012, 2013. By the time I started to actually feel better, it was like 2015, 2016, because, healing's a journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, both physically and emotionally, and the whole kit and caboodle, right? Mind, body, soul. And so then things started to feel out of alignment as I started to get better and feel better. And I started to question the industry I was in, as I started to learn so much more about what health really was. But the reality was, Jennifer, is it was like golden handcuffs. I mean, it was a good gig. I mean, I was paid well. I had a lot of freedom and autonomy and flexibility. And also, I was good at my job. But, you get these whispers, and I drowned them out. And then COVID hit. And, I had to make a choice. Do I stay and align with what is being asked? Or do I take this as a signal to leave? And so,
Mm-hmm.
from this journey, you can see this unfolding. So I began with this inner struggle, right? It started internally, like me questioning, and then I ignored those, and then it showed up in the physicality in our world, right? And the external. So this inner struggle transformed and showcased itself in the external. So I had to decide what to do. So in April of 2022, I walked away. And it was actually a very painful thing for me because it was 17 years of being in a career and in an environment. And I was disappointed and how things unfolded and how I saw humanity, quite frankly, in a lot of ways being played, if you will, but I knew deep inside that this was a deeper calling, and I had to, find that myself. And I had taken a course through guidance of a mentor of mine who's a medical intuitive who I connected with on my health journey, a business intuition course. And that unlocked something within me. It opened up this innate knowing that I had. And from there, it led me to really understand that every business, whether it's physically formed or not, has its own consciousness.
Yes.
And if we can align with that as the people who are running the business, then this opens up this, what I like to call a business treasure map. And
Hmm.
this eliminates the need to operate from this place of hustle, scarcity, and fear that many businesses and many industries, quite frankly, are operating in. And it just allows for this opportunity of magnetism. And that business intuition course really opened up one of my gifts, which is not only connecting with the consciousness of the business, but also helping the business leaders align with this. And I also teach them how to connect with their business too. So much unfolds in working with me in terms of the goal is really to have you be self sufficient and learn how to do this on your own and honor the fact that the business has its own soul, if you will, and how it wants to show up. And from there, we're able to help with the right clients, the right offers, pricing, the why, which is so important in terms of how we show up. So that's it in a nutshell. I started doing, one-on-one sessions, which I still do and will continue to do. And then most recently now I'm doing workshops on transforming conflict in business for growth and innovation.
Yay, I love it. And I can hear the passion in your voice too, Jumana. And the way I see passion, when you break up the word, it's pass I on. That I
Oh, yeah.
being your soul's expression of what you're here to pass on in this lifetime, which I feel you've really tapped into and have aligned with. And you're also talking about how your business has soul, right? What
Yes.
is the vehicle that helps you to live your purpose and your
Mhm.
passion? That's your business, right? That's the vehicle that helps you to live your purpose, to be able to tap into your deeper passion that you're here to pass on. And your business is also allowing you to do that, right? So I love that sense of alignment. And where I talk about passion, you're talking about embodying your genius as well,
Mhm.
and not to really embody that though, not just to have this
Yeah.
expertise, but to actually embody that, to really walk your talk and to live that. So you don't end up with like, I love how you called it a lifestyle illness. That was really interesting kind of term and way to think about because and it's so true, like it encompasses so much, really. Absolutely. And I also really loved how you said humanity got played. Humanity got played. I love that. I love that so much. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
know.
this,
I want
yeah.
to. I want to correct that too,
Oh,
because
okay.
there are certain people that needed to go through that path, and that's their soul
Sure.
contract. So that
Of
it's
course.
not coming from a place of judgment, but
No.
I also now see people like in a lot of regret, and I know a lot of people in regret for their choices and how
Mm,
they motivated. So that's really when I use that term, it's really referring to those people,
Okay.
because that's how they feel and that's how they're showing up and realizing that. But yeah, but I, on if for me, it just that path was not aligned. That's not to say for other people that it wasn't, but for me, I knew it wasn't.
Sure, sure. And the way that it came, how it landed for me was that in that hustle. Right, we got
Yes.
played in thinking that there's this hustle, there's something that we have to strive for,
Yes.
to achieve, to go after, to pursue, and to be in that constant hustle. Like if we're not being productive and performing, then we're not good enough, right? And we all want this health and wellness, the health and well-being. We want to prioritize that, but our actions are always in productivity and performance, right? And that's the hustle. And I've noticing more and more this huge shift from that hustle into harmony. And we harmonize when we're in our integrity. We harmonize when we're living our truth, which is where balance comes from. We harmonize when we're living in alignment with our values, what's most meaningful and purposeful for us, and that we're actually acting from that place, right?
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and what that means is taking the time to get to know yourself and what
Yes.
feels good and what doesn't. And I think it's not always a pretty process. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
those that 11, 12 years of my journey, and some people have longer, some people have short, some people have multiple. And of course, throughout that time, I'm also experiencing a lot of other deep transformations, as we
Yes.
all are.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, what do we do with it? Do we
Mm.
honor this time? Do we actually take it and look at as there's gold in here, and I'm not going to run away from it?
Yeah.
And there is a normal process that a lot of us have become immune to, which is numbing ourselves.
Mhm.
Whether
Mhm.
it's TV, computer, drugs, alcohol, food, sex. I mean, there's so many different ways we can numb out.
Yeah.
And all of those things bury us deeper. So
Mhm.
it really is about the willingness to embrace these darker times and think of it as this metamorphosis, because that's exactly what it is. And
Yes.
and the reality is, if everything was always sunshine and roses, then there's
Mhm.
no reason to grow, right? You
Uh-huh.
need that contrast,
Yeah.
and that is that period of time with COVID. That's exactly what that was. That was contrast. And a
Mhm.
lot of people saw that and took the cue
Yeah.
and went in a new direction. And
Mhm.
and that's what it's about. I mean, there is a huge awakening that's been happening now for the past few years and will continue to happen. And you can see it, on the geopolitical scale. You've got our government's telling us this is what the reality is, and you have people saying no, this is not what it's not what you're saying. So there are people, and especially in businesses, and this is really where I come into play in terms of, this is what my gift is really tuning into the business energy. People, consumers are really being much more savvy and walking the walk with who they're going to invest in and who they're
Mm.
not,
Mhm.
because they're more awakened. And if businesses really want to thrive and survive, you have to acknowledge that and go with that. So it is about, you use the word integrity, and that's such a hot button for me. Um,
Mm.
because integrity, when we encompass that, and we encompass that in all areas as much as we can, understanding it's an unfolding, there are layers to all of us, and it's about the willingness to continue to peel back the layers. But the more we're in integrity, the more we can honor that. And the other thing is, the more we honor our differences and our coming from a place of integrity, the more space we can hold for other people who don't agree with us and
Yes.
who are different than us. And that's so important here, because you have these divisions that are being created. I the way I see this that it began to really be highlighted, the 2016 election with Trump. Either you
Mm.
were for him or against him. Then we saw that during COVID.
Mm.
Either you were on this side or that side. And then now we're seeing a very similar dynamic with Israel Palestine situation. I mean, people are getting laid off from their jobs, there's censorship happening, and there's literally no room for dialogue. And that is detrimental to humanity because we
Yes.
are all meant to have different paths and
Hmm.
different ways to arrive, right? And you have to be willing to hold space without the need, the desire to convince you to come to my side. It is acknowledging and respecting that we're all different.
Hmm.
And that's what I see beginning to sort of happen. It's still in the early stages, but more to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And holding space, I've heard you say that a few times, and that's been on my mind and heart as well, is how well, first of all, we're holding space for ourselves, holding
Yes.
space for our transitional periods, our transformation, our healing, our realignment,
Mhm.
and then have the capacity to be able to hold space for others and hold space for all that's happening in the world. Not that we're wanting to carry that burden, but how we're going to be able to contain ourselves within it you know
Yes.
so I think that holding space is really key for that, and part of what helps us to grow into and expand into something bigger, brighter, higher, and really elevate humanity, right? To really support
Elevate.
that.
Yes. I love
Yeah,
that word elevate. And then it's also what eliminates the need for hustle and this, shifting out of the scarcity mindset is the more in integrity you are, the more you're operating from this place of magnetism.
that's
So
right.
you're not needing to hustle, right? That doesn't mean you go lay on a beach and twiddle your thumbs and expect people to come to you, but it means operating from who you really are
Yeah,
and not being bogged down with fear and, oh, I need to do this in order to be successful. Business is changing. It is changing, and I'm experiencing that in my business where it really is about this magnetism. Yes, you let the word out, you let people know that you're here to serve, and then the right people come,
mhm,
and so we're seeing this shift happen. And I know there's a lot, especially with social media and the presence, there's a lot of pressure. Oh,
yeah,
so and so did this, I need to do that. And in some cases, that may be true. But again, that means tuning in and respecting and honoring. Is that really aligned?
yeah,
And is that aligned not just with me? If you're operating in the business space, is that aligned with my business?
yeah.
What does my business want? How does it want to show up?
Hmm. Hmm.
And honoring that. And from there, that magnetism piece is really where we're headed.
Yes, absolutely. And this is the momentum that we can create because we're on path, right? There's always starting this idea, and then we make a decision, and then we go through like this huge rite of passage that creates the momentum that we need because we realign. And then it's almost like a rebirth, and it continues that cycle over and over again. And we recognize how powerful that holding space can be. You brought up the pandemic earlier and how the lockdown had unlocked so much
Yes.
within us, right? Because everything outside of us was locked up. But we
Mhm.
also had that bubble, our space of 6 feet
Yes.
apart, and so we're standing together, but that space was kind of imposed upon us,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
actually gave us the space that we needed to be in our own energy and our own thoughts and start
Yes.
reevaluating things, for
Yes.
example. And that's similar to what we can just create for ourselves, the right condition where we can give ourselves room to breathe, to hear our own thoughts, to engage in soul care, to do the things that we love, to be able to engage in the people, places, and things that really help to lift that vibration, so we create that magnetism to just have everything just come to us that we
Mhm.
desire because we become a vibrational match for it. But let's talk about the business space a little bit and what kind of culture can be created then within that. What kind of conditions can be created for everyone to thrive within that?
Yeah, I love that you asked that question. I mean, it's always going to start with leadership. It's always going to begin there because they're really setting the tone. And this is who I'm called to work with, and this is who I am working with. Are the leaders of these organizations, of these businesses, and then from there, it is, the most important thing is embodying, right?
Yes.
The key quality to me in leadership is
Hmm.
humility. It is
Yes.
humility because it means owning that we're human, that we're going to
Yeah.
make mistakes, right?
Hmm.
And not shying away from it and looking at all situations as an opportunity to learn. And this is why I've stepped into the workshop arena with transforming conflict in business, because that
Mm.
is such a huge opportunity. People have such aversion to conflict. But in reality, I mean, we deal with it all the time internally, right? I mean, we don't necessarily are not conscious of it. We're just kind of going through our thing. And then eventually we, peep our heads out and there's the light, right? But it's a deep transformative experience. And external conflict can be just as potent, if not more,
Mm.
because now we're opening ourselves up to different ways of thinking and being that we may not have thought about because it's just our perspective, right? It's
Yeah.
what we believe and what we feel. So when we take conflict and transform it in this way, then we're really able to see different ways of being and doing that we may not have even ever would have thought of. And see what that does is it expands the reach and deepens the impact of
Yes.
the outcome, right?
Yes.
And that's why I'm saying, like, when people are like, oh well, you disagree with me, I can't work with you, and this whole like shift of like focusing on like-mindedness.
Hmm.
I mean, in some areas, yes, that's important. I mean, let me be clear. In business, you definitely need to agree on the goal for
Mm.
sure.
Hmm.
But there can be multiple ways of achieving that goal, and you have to be open to that. And also be open that maybe the goal might be too small.
Hmm.
Maybe it should be a different goal. And this again, when we're having experiences with the other, when we have them with just ourselves, they can be really transformative. But when we have experiences outside of ourselves with the other, these are also deeply transformative. So not to shy away from it. That doesn't mean that you soften completely and you hide yourself because you're trying to please your way out of it. That's not the right way of handling that
Hmm.
situation. It is about, again, showing up in integrity, but holding space that the outcome, may be completely different than what you expect. So removing the
Yes.
expectations, removing the judgment, truly operating from this place of curiosity and empathy when you're interacting with yourself, but also with the other. And of course, it's so easy to say that, oh, just make sure you're empathetic and curious. So how do you get there when you're highly charged, right? And that's another thing that I'm teaching in my workshops, is how to get in that space before we interact with ourselves and the other, to ensure that we're in a place where it's not as loud and we're calmer and we can hold that difference of opinion, right?
Yeah.
And difference way of being. So yeah, I view conflict is such a huge springboard for business that many people are shying away from, because again, it's ugly. It gets ugly, like with our transformation within ourselves, it gets dirty and ugly.
Hmm.
But if we go into it, it's kind of like, when you're gonna go work out, it's not always getting there is not always fun, but
Right. Right.
at the end you're gonna be like patting yourself on the back, like, I did it. The little bit of the sore feeling feels good because it came from good work, right?
Hmm.
And that's what, transforming conflict is. And it's layers, it's never a one and done. But if you can do it in a way where you're respectful of the process and of all sides, then that can really make a huge difference and make a huge impact.
Oh, I so agree with you, Jumana. And I love that there's a few words that you said that I would consider even to be like, maybe we can call them unconventional strategies. And that was think, believe, and feel. And then
Mm.
you also spoke about, holding this space in the business and not attaching to the outcome either, right? And so these are amazing things to be aware of and to think about and to really consider how much actually of a profound impact all of that can have. And it really helps to have a mentor, a coach, a leader along the process, which I know you are. So, of course, we want our readers to be able to connect with you, to be able to learn more. So, tell us a little bit about how they can do that.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity, Jennifer. So, yeah, so on one thing, I will say I'm not a coach. I know it may come across that way, but I'm definitely a consultant. So, my goal really is to give you the tools so that you can move forward. So, if you are interested in one-on-one sessions, that's really where we're connecting with the business energy, and it really is, I call it a blend of the ethereal and the practical.
Mm.
Because of this space, you are going to get a mix of inspiration and knowing clearly your path and the path of your business, and you're going to have actionable steps at the end. So
Mm.
we can do like a one-on-one session, or you can buy a package of sessions if that also calls to you. And then also now doing transforming conflict in business workshops for organizations or groups. So two separate ways. And these both fall in under the umbrella of my accelerated business transformation process.
Okay,
So
awesome.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
this is so
two different
exciting. I'm going to
paths.
make sure that those links are in the show notes down below this video, of course, so that people can easily connect with all of that. I love everything that you shared, all the tools, and I'm wondering if there's even any more wisdom or advice or insights that you'd like to share with our audience.
Make sure, we talked about holding space.
Hmm.
And I think the most important thing to do is to hold space for ourselves, but also understanding that we are not victims, because the reality is victimhood dilutes the human potential and the human experience. So accepting that we all play a role in what happens to us. Right. And change that to it's happening for me,
Yeah.
right? So that it highlights these areas of opportunities that we can grow into. That doesn't mean to blame or shame for the way we had things play out before, but it's important to recognize where we are in order to move to the next level. So it's essential to own our role and to own how we really are the leaders of our journey.
Yes. Yes, I love that. Thank you so much. This has been such an amazing, enlightening, and transformative conversation. So grateful for you, Jumana. So grateful for each and every one of you that have been watching and tuning in to Awaken and Ascend. We hold this space for you every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Pacific. You can use the time converter to see what time that means in your zone, but then it's out there forever once we release these videos anyway. And so make sure you give us a thumbs up so we can extend this to others who may be looking for it. Give yourself the time and space to tune in every week so that you can gain these tools, these inspirations to stay inspired, to gather some more wisdom for your journey of self realization. I'm Jennifer Regular, and we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.